Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we talk about the music theater performance here at St. Lawrence College. I'm Erica. I'm a member of the recruitment team, and I'd like to introduce to you Janet, our program coordinator.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that some of your questions that you might have get answered as we chat.
Janet, can you tell us a little bit about the program format?
So the program is at St. Lawrence College, a 3-year advanced diploma. This is one of the few advanced diploma programs at the college, and it's a very intensive 3-year program. We also have an option of 2 years at SLC followed by 2 years at Queen's. The 2 years at SLC for those students who are going to Queen's are exactly the same as the first 2 years of our advanced diploma program. Then after the second year, students will pack up their things and move on to Kingston, and they'll be going to a liberal arts program at Queen's, which will be a different learning experience and will help them to expand their creative ways through different means than what we do at SLC. SLC is very vocational. The program is very, very geared to getting students a job in the musical theater industry.
So Janet, I've put all of the classes here, but can you tell us a little bit more about what each year kind of looks like?
So in year one, in the first 2 semesters, we do a lot of theoretical training, a lot of technique training. We really key in on developing the technique of the students so that they have something to fall back on always. What we want students to do is to be able to perform with a solid technical base in acting, singing, and dancing in their year 2 and in their year 3 courses. So year 1 is really geared to expanding knowledge from a technical basis. In year 2, we're really looking at trying to take that technique and put it together with a more performative element within the second year. And it takes a long time to combine the elements of technique and performance all together, especially when you're talking about 3 disciplines at once. I often refer to musical theater performers as Olympic athletes because they're trying to do really literally always 3 things at one time. And so year 2 is really structured to help the students combine and layer those 3 things and let them do it all at the same time, but with proper technique and with a good theoretical and technical basis. In year 3, we look at trying to send the student off similar to the way a mother fledges a baby bird. We give them, we continue feeding them information, but at the same time, we're encouraging them to expand their knowledge on their own to figure out where they would fit in the employment structure of the musical theater industry. Our sole goal within the 3 years is to develop students who have the opportunity to get a job in musical theater or in the entertainment industry of some kind. And it seems that that part of it has been quite successful in that we have lots of students who are working not necessarily in the sort of traditional musical theater, but in lots of different ways within the entertainment field. So that part of it is very important for getting the students a job at the end.
And I've put the link to the program page at the bottom, but I know that when this is a video, it won't work. I just encourage the students to go and look at that program page because all of those classes, you can click on them and see a little description, which is really nice as well. Now, you talked a little bit about the different pillars and what each year looks like, but a question I get over and over again is, what would you say the percentage is between the dancing, singing, and acting in the program?
Literally when the program was created, and this new program, we're in the second iteration of a new program. We've done now 2 5-year reviews of the program. When we recreated the program now almost 7 years ago or 8 years ago, we started at the very top. What was it that we wanted the students to get at the very end? And what we wanted was the students to get a job. And so we decided then that in order to do that, they needed to be strong in all three disciplines. So truthfully, the three disciplines are almost equally divided between the 3 years. The difference between year 1, year 2, and year 3 is the amount of incorporation of the three at once that students are requested to look at. In year 1, it's quite separated. In year 2, it starts to amalgamate. And by year 3, we're expecting students to be able to move when they sing with intention, to dance and sing at the same time with intention. In other words, with an idea of story behind it at all times.
In terms of the acting, because I feel like in the dancing classes, in the vocal classes, it's pretty well outlined. In the acting, is it broken down into modules? What type of acting are they doing? What is the acting development? What does it look like?
So again, with acting, very, very similar to dance. Actually, in the first 2 semesters, students really focus in on acting technique. In developing technique, they do monologues, they do voice, speech, and movement, which is the idea of when I speak this line, how would I move in order to accentuate what I'm saying? So it's already starting to link the two disciplines together. They do study some classical acting, so Shakespeare, Ibsen, those kinds of classical things. And then later on in year 2, they get to do what's called musical theater scene study. And this is the real starting to layer together their acting, their traditional acting that they've learned with singing and with dance all together. And we teach them how to do it, so that by the time they leave, there's an understanding in the industry that when you get out there, you know what to do. So we feel it's very important for us to give the students the tools of knowing how to do what they need to do when they walk into an audition or when they walk into a rehearsal room.
That's awesome. Good. Thank you. So I know everyone is always excited to get onto the stage. What does performance look like at SLC?
So basically, we try to give the students as much performance opportunity as we possibly can. It starts in the 2nd semester with a show we call New Faces. Although it had a new name last year, it's gone through some iterations. I think this year will be quite exciting. But New Faces is really an amalgamation of the work that the students have done in first year. And it's a way for them to present to their parents, their friends, their families, how much they've grown in basically a very short period of time. It's less than 30 weeks of classes by the time they put New Faces on the stage. There's not an expectation in New Faces of completely telling a story. We save that for 2nd and 3rd year. And when the students come back in September of the 2nd year, they do their first, what could be considered as their first professional audition. I say that because at SLC, we bring in guest artists to direct, choreograph, and musically direct our shows. And all of these guest artists are working professionals in the musical theater industry. And so as they're auditioning for these people, they're also starting to walk down the path of setting their type, their face in the professional world. So we really try to set them up by doing New Faces so that when they do walk in for that first audition in year 2, in the very first week of year 2, that they're ready to walk in that room and make a good impression. We hope that when they come back in the first week of year 3, now they've had a bit of a chance to audition for other professionals, a varied group of professionals, and they'll have honed that skill a little bit more so that they are really clear on what they need to do when they walk in that room.
I think that audition process is so fun. When you were saying that sometimes the 2 shows are kind of battling it out as to who gets who. And
absolutely, it's very often, it's very often that it's a bit like a chess game, listening, because we normally have 2 shows going on at the same time and 2 groups of people casting the students. And it's very much like a chess match. They trade off students so that they can make sure that their show has what it needs in order for it to be successful. We do also try to make sure that students are developed in the best way that they possibly can. We look at the individual and we try to decide what would be best for this individual before they graduate from the school. So it's not always just a matter of who's the best person for that role, but necessarily what's the best vehicle for this student to achieve what they need to achieve before they leave. That's one of the things that I think makes SLC a little bit special, in that we can take the time to do that, because we all are a bit of a smaller community. So it really helps out that we can do that. And of course, in the musical theater industry, everyone knows everyone. So lots of the people who come in to do guest directing or guest musical directing or guest choreography are people that the faculty know, and they can speak with them quite honestly and openly about the opportunities that some students may need to get at a certain point.
Janet, you have led perfectly into our next slide. Why SLC? You always talk so nicely about why our campus. So I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about that.
So one of the things I think that is somewhat comforting for some students and for some parents as well, Brockville is a small community. It's a place where students can come and actually immerse themselves in learning. There's not a lot of outside influence that goes on in Brockville. So for some people, that's an ideal place for them to learn. We also have sort of a dedicated part of the building, which is musical theater land, let's call it that. And the students become very family oriented. And in fact, many of our students, after they've been together, even if they move on to Queens after 2 years, they often move together. They often go in a group. We had students last year, 5 of them go to Sligo in Ireland, and they all went together. They all had an amazing time doing a master's degree at Sligo as a group of 5. So they make these kinships, they make these amazing connections with each other. And in fact, this year I was lucky enough to be involved in a Zoom group chat with graduates who graduated. They were my first graduating class. So after I was hired full-time, the first 3-year graduating class, it's years ago now, and they all got together on Zoom, and it was like no time had passed. They all just started trading back stories, and it was really super exciting. So it's a really small, lovely community. The other great thing about Brockville is its location in terms of where it's connected within Ontario, in that it's pretty much equidistant from Toronto and from Montreal, connected by train. Easy to get on the train and get to Toronto, get to Montreal, and get to Ottawa, but equally easy to get to New York by train, as long as you can just take a short drive to Syracuse, which is about an hour and a half. You can get on the train and be in downtown New York City in 6 hours. I've done that train trip. It's absolutely spectacular. I recommend it to students. You can go on a weekend. If you take the train early Saturday morning, you can make it in time for the matinee Saturday afternoon. It's awesome. You can catch 3 shows, Saturday matinee, Saturday evening, Sunday matinee, and be back at school on Monday morning. It's fantastic. So it's really an ideal location for that kind of thing. But like I say, the most important thing is Brockville is very safe. It's very calm. And there's just not a lot to do there, so you immerse yourself in your studies. And when you look at the course calendar, as you looked at it a couple of slides ago, you saw there are many courses. In first semester, the students are doing 35 hours of classes in their first semester. That's a lot of class time. It's a lot of time to be immersed in something, and you're not going to have the stamina, strength, or energy to be going out after that, I don't think.
It's a full-time job. Literally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. Like I said, it's like an Olympic activity. You have to immerse yourself in it in order to make progress. That's really, really super important.
So now let's talk about getting there. Again, a link, all of this information is on our website, but Janet, can you give us just a quick overview of what the audition process looked like?
So the audition process is basically what exactly is posted on the website. Students walk into the audition, we greet them obviously, and they go directly to the accompanist where they give their sheet music, and they will sing portions of a cut of two pieces, a ballad and an up-tempo piece of their choice. Once they're finished that, they do a monologue, and again, depending on what our timeline is at that time, the monologue, we may hear the whole thing or we may cut it off. It never to be confused by saying I'm doing a terrible job, just simply we've heard enough in order to be able to move on. When the students actually arrive at the audition in the morning, the very, very first thing they do is a group dance combination if they come to an in-person audition. So they are taught a combination by one of our faculty members, and then we look at the combination in small groups, and we score it based on technical abilities, ability to incorporate some sort of stylistic element into it, as well as some sort of character element into it. And we often will say it will be a combination like, in the past we've used Hairspray a few times, things like that. It will be musical theater content that most students are familiar with. So they do that. If they're at an in-person audition, they also do a small theory test, a music theory test. We do not use that as part of our scoring. We use that if the students come in the fall, because the theory classes are broken into two sections, and we like to see where the students stand in terms of their theory knowledge, their musical knowledge. And theory is actually, and musical language is different than, say, dance language. There's a lot of terminology. There's a lot of terminology in music, a lot of terminology in dance, and a lot of terminology in acting. We're not asking you to learn one of those languages. We're asking you to learn all three of those languages. So spending time on music theory is extraordinarily important. It will set the students up to be much more successful walking into an audition and being able to look at a piece of music and have an idea. We're not asking you to play an instrument. We want you to have an idea of what's written on that page.
Great. Now, I'm not expecting either one of us to read through this entire alumni testimonial, but it's on the website as well. But I think Susan has a little bit of an interesting path, right? So I was just wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about Susan.
So Susan came to the school as she was certainly set on being a musical theater performer. And during her journey, she found some other attributes that she didn't really know that she had. And one of those was the attribute to be more of a producer type. And so she has actually gone on and become a booker of comedy shows. And many of our students actually have been able to work with Susan in performance. We've had them out to the college to perform with a couple of comedy headliners. So they've taken their SLC experience, and although, like I said at the beginning, not everyone goes into the sort of forward stream of this is musical theater, they will go into performance streams that might be quite different. We have another student, Maddie Palmer, who went on to Queen's after she graduated. So she did her advanced diploma. She also did some performing, then went back to Queen's, got her Bachelor of Musical Theater, and has now gone on to a master's in arts development. So she found a completely different path. It's more of a governmental type path where she can still be involved in the arts, but from a different perspective. And she used her training at SLC to set her on that pathway and found a pathway that felt good to her. We have quite a number of students who go on to take their musical theater background and use it in a dance context. So they'll be teaching musical theater at a dance studio facility. We have one in, Jeremy teaches in Hong Kong, and he teaches dance in Hong Kong, but he also teaches musical theater at the studio that he's at in Hong Kong, and has been there for I want to say four years now, through all the turmoil, still there in Hong Kong. So it's really a testament to the fact that we try to develop the students in the best way that we can.
I just switched the slide because I thought that you were talking about this so greatly. I know a question I get on the road quite a bit is, what's your success rate after the program, after graduation? What's the percentage of people that are on stage and that sort of thing? And I know that that's really hard to gauge because it might not happen tomorrow for a grad. But could you speak a little bit more to that maybe?
I would say that, and this is me speaking personally, and this is my mantra for my students. You can do whatever you want to do. I would say that the students who want to be involved in the arts are. The students who realize, and some do, and it's okay, realize this is not the life that I really want, go on to other things. What I will say is absolutely 100%, they take their training with them. They will not lose. So, we have a former student who runs a yoga school. I know for sure that that yoga school is more successful than it would be because of her musical theater performance background. And this particular student, I would have bet, would have been one of our main musical theater for sure. Absolutely. Super, super talented when she was at the school. Hard worker, found a different pathway, found something that she felt more passionate about. So my point is, if you want it, it's there for you. There is something for everybody. What I will say to students, always, 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 you have to be willing to work. You have to be willing to put your time in, and you have to be willing to wait, and not just wait around for it to come to you. You have to go out looking for it. And if we offer one thing, I hope it's that knowledge of knowing when you walk out the door that you have to look for it if you want it. I'd like everyone to know that I said all of that with my hands.
Yeah, I don't know if the video will be in it, but we're quite dynamic speakers over here and people are missing out on that. So you already talked about this a little bit, but I just wanted to put this up here too, that if there is anyone watching this presentation right now who's interested in the Queen's BMT, we really encourage you to actually go to the Queen's website and look at that, because the best people to speak to the Queen's experience are the Queen's people. And, we've had a lot of our grads now speaking about it, which is great to see. But please, and feel free to contact Graham too. He's a great resource. And yeah, so thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Janet. That was fantastic.
No problem.
And of course, if you do have any other questions after this presentation, Janet's a great resource for anything program specific, but if you have some questions about what classes you need to be taking in a high school or something like that, please feel free to reach out to our recruitment team as well. We hope you have a nice day, and hopefully we will see you at SLC soon.
Thanks, everyone.